Good evening. It's Friday, and just for tonight, it's a Sid Says special, which was supposed to be broadcasted at 7:30, but due to technical difficulties, as always, I had to cancel it while I sorted out my laptop, and I've managed to fix it, and it's 9:45, and I'm hoping anyone that did watch England will now come for some proper entertainment on Sid Says tonight with my special man, the main man of Paxton Road TV, the one, the only, ladies and gentlemen, Sam Spurs for Life. Good evening, Sam. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I didn't watch that, so I'm good because apparently it wasn't the greatest game in the world. So all good. Looking forward to the return of the Premier League. To be honest,
Do you know what? I'm not going to lie to you. I do not like watching England live unless you're actually at the stadium. But then again, I don't like watching them there as well because honestly, it is poor. And apparently, it was poor again today. When an England manager picks players that can't play for their respective clubs, can't get into the starting lineup for their respective clubs, yet they're starting for England, sums it all up. I tell you what, the biggest mystery was for me, the main man at the moment in the Prem, who's scoring goals for fun, Ivan Toney, wasn't even in the squad.
So is he going to play against Germany? Because they play Germany, is it Tuesday next week? You know what I mean? I don't know why they pick these players for these fees, because it's only a glorified friendlies, this Nations League. They could play players to see what they're like, because we have got a World Cup coming up. So you might want to think, is Ivan Toney got some... You know when they took, what's his name from Arsenal, Walcott, when Sven took him, but they didn't really know what he was going to do. But at least give someone like Ivan Toney, who's been playing well, a chance. See what he does. I don't know.
Exactly. My theory is, because I like these theories, you see, I had these Brendan Rodgers theories. My theory was today, play Kane, England were going to lose, and then they're going to rest Kane now against Germany, because England have got relegated, because they had to win today. So now Toney plays, and Kane gets a rest, because we've got a massive game coming up next weekend. So I think this is going to be an absolute blessing in disguise. Anyway, enough of England. The reason we're here today, ladies and gentlemen, fans of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, is Djed Spence. Is he the new Steven Bergwijn? Because 7 games in to the Premier League, and this man, I know my man next to me here is crying out to watch him play. A lot of Spurs fans are crying out when Spence going to play. And it's not happened at the moment. So what we're going to talk about is, let's talk about Spence, baby. Let's talk about you and Spence. Let's talk about all the bad things and the good things that may be. Let's talk about Spence. Anyway, is Spence the new Steven Bergwijn? So we're going to go. I think you might have just got a snippet of the slides because I went back to front rather than front to back. But before we go into it, Sam.
Yes.
Tell me, Spence, when we went for him, when we went to buy him, when he wore the Tottenham Hotspur Football Club shirt, what was your expectations? What did you expect to happen?
Well, again, I'll start. It's kind of a bit of a mismatched answer. So Tottenham have apparently been tracking Spence for a while. I think since about 2018, 19, maybe even later than that, possibly. But certainly last season we saw Djed Spence perform well against top-level opposition, albeit in the FA Cup run that they had, Nottingham Forest. They played Arsenal, they played Leicester. He played both those games and played very well, got man of the match, I think, for definitely the Arsenal game, and potentially scored in that Leicester game as well, I think. So he looked like he was a player that could play at this level. Yeah, he's a bit raw. Yeah, he's a bit, ungainly in terms of knowing the tactical side of things. But surely no worse than some of the players that we've seen play for Spurs when they hadn't had a lot of Conte time. Conte's made this excuse of, I like to have players who've been with me for months on end, and then I can gel them in. But we saw players that got games last season that didn't really gel. We saw players get multiple games that, didn't perform well. And then we had the Steven Bergwijn situation. So I just think we bought this player. It can't be any worse than someone like, Sessegnon, who's a similar type of age, and surely he's got enough athleticism about him, being 22, 23 years of age, to be able to get up and down that pitch. Even if you tell him just get up and get down, he could be coached through games. I'm not sure what's happening.
Cool. Before we move on, if whoever's watching, listening, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and follow Paxton Road TV. As our one and truly Sean Hurl is saying, share, comment, and like. And before we move on, Sean is saying here, good headline, not sure, a good comparison as different positions. Sean, we're not talking about positions. We're just talking about what happened with Bergwijn in terms of game time.
Exactly.
The same going to happen to Spence not getting the game time. We're not comparing the players because obviously it's one's
Very
an out.
different.
Yeah, it's completely different. It's positions and whatever. We're just talking about game time in general. So, 22-year-old Djed Spence came from Nottingham Forest, originally from Middlesbrough, on loan to Nottingham Forest. We paid an initial £12.5 million for him, which could rise to £20 million with add-ons on a 5-year contract until 2027. Now, if I am Middlesbrough, I am now sat there as the chairman, and I'm thinking, am I going to get more than 12.5 million now? Because obviously, it's going to rise up to 20 million on add-ons. So I'm assuming it goes to appearances, winning things. But at the moment, this guy is not getting any game time. So, have I made a boo-boo here? Should I have waited an extra couple of months or January and sold him to somebody else who would have paid me the 20 million, who would have actually played the player? We're going to look into the stats at this precise moment on what the situation is with Spence. I know, Sam, you know exactly what the situation is. I think everyone listening, watching, probably know what the situation is with Djed Spence. However, let's go for it. So, might as well add it. Okay, so here we go. First game, 6th of August, at home to Southampton. He was a substitution. Then we move on to Chelsea on the 14th of August. Away, Spence is not in the squad. So, Sam, after 2 games, what you thinking now?
2 games, I could probably understand it. The first, he came quite late into the window. He didn't get to travel to go and do the South Korea thing. So we kind of, have to take that into consideration late. But we had Matt Doherty was injured, so we didn't have a backup to, a natural backup, apart from Perisic, you can play both sides. And I guess you could say Sanchez could play right back, but at the time, Tanganga was injured still at that time as well in the first couple of games. So we weren't blessed that we had loads of right backs. And to not even be in the squad for that, I just thought that was a bit weird for the Chelsea game. And then going forward, you're probably going to show more now. I just think, when are we going to get to see that he can't play for this team? That's what I'm saying. I'd rather see him play, have a few, that's a bit of a mare. I can see. But we haven't even had the opportunity to see that, Sid.
Yeah. I mean, we discussed this many times. We've discussed it after the games. We've discussed this on the previews. We've also done it on Talking Points. We've done it on Sid Says. And we have said Conte is going to stick with the players that got him into the Champions League last season, tried and tested. Unfortunately, Doherty got injured, like you just mentioned, and Royal was there. He's got other options, Tangangas, La Sanchez, whatever, and so far not used them. But we did say he's going to use him. However, I've got more slides, and then I want to pose a couple of questions, statements. Let's say statements Conte has said, and then we'll discuss that further. So, Chelsea game, not in the squad. Wolverhampton Wanderers at home on the 20th of August, not in the squad. 3 games in now. Royals hit and miss. Everyone's hit and miss with him. Yes, he's had a good game. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Conte saying, no, I trust the guy. I'm liking the way he's playing. Okay. Then he goes to Nottingham Forest, the club that he made his name for last season, gets on the 90th minute for 1 minute. Now, I don't know about you, Sam, but I was expecting Spence to start the Forest game purely because the boy was at Nottingham Forest all season. He knows how they play. He probably would have known all their weak links. And I think Forest probably was the right game for him to come in because they had about 400 new players. And for me personally, I think this game was the game for him to start.
So there was a couple of games. I think the home game before that against Wolves potentially could have started there, because I think to play away from home is always going to be a bit more of a tougher challenge because you haven't got the fans on your side, obviously. But then the fact that he was going away to Nottingham Forest, a club that he'd come from in terms of being on loan there, had done really well. I would have thought he would have put on a really good performance. I don't know. We don't know that now. But it didn't even get more than a minute as a cameo in that game. I thought was not the greatest. Again, you have to look back. We're a team that's been on a winning run, unbeaten run, certainly. Although we haven't looked like we're playing the best football, it's effective football and we're getting results. And that's what it's about at the end of the day. So Conte is seen, and we know that he's stubborn. You look at the stats of Emerson, he's got an engine on him. He can get back, he can get forward. But his distribution and his defending at both. So I don't think he's necessarily the best defender, but I don't think he's the best attacker either. But what he's got is the ability to get up and down the pitch. Very similar, not the same, as like what Kyle Walker was. Kyle Walker was a very good athlete. Wasn't the best technical footballer in the world, and he's not the best technical footballer in the world, but he's got that ability to do exactly what it says on the tin in terms of that position. This guy, I believe, has got all that in his locker, but we need to see it. Come on, Conte, do us a favour.
Absolutely. Just going back to something you said about Royal going forward and backwards. A Ferrari can go back forwards and backwards. A Fiesta can go forward and backwards. Del Boy and Rodney's three-wheeler can go forwards and backwards. Yeah. So that's anyone should be able to go forwards and backwards. It's what you then do with the ball when you get it. And then do you indicate left? Can you indicate right? Can you put it in sport mode and put your foot down and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all right. So that's that. Next one, West Ham United, 31st of August. Guess what? A sub. Fulham, 3rd of September at home. Not in the squad.
So just let me think. All them games where he's putting his sub, he didn't make any appearances, did he?
No.
Just to let the viewers know.
Sub on the bench. So basically, whenever you see a number and the word minute next to it, is actual game time. Not in the squad means not in the squad. Wasn't even on, didn't make the squad, didn't travel to the ground. Sub means sat on the bench, keeping it warm. So Fulham game, he wasn't in the squad. Champions League, 7th of September at home, he was a substitute. And he did warm up, let me say, quite a few times. Never got on. Lisbon, 13th of September, the next Champions League game because Man City got cancelled. A substitute on the bench again. Probably warmed up. Nothing more, nothing less. And we did get beat that game. Finally, Leicester, 17th of September. Not in the squad at all. So, in all 8 games, Djed Spence, our summer signing, potentially £20 million, phenomenal youngster, has played 1 minute of football, and that was against Nottingham Forest. That's it.
I find that strange for a couple of reasons. One, Matt Doherty's injured and hasn't really featured himself, and Conte's come and said he doesn't think Matt Doherty's reached a level that he'd achieved at the end of last season, and he wanted him to go away on this international break and get some games and come back and he'd get his chance. So that was strange that, we've got Matt Doherty's still making the bench, but can't actually play because he's not fit enough. Mm-hmm. We've also seen that, Sessegnon, he's probably the best comparison. Before Conte, he obviously was on loan. Then he came back at the end of beginning of last season. Conte then came in partway through. He didn't really get in the team, but then he did. Conte then said he trusts him, and he didn't have a full pre-season with Conte for Conte to say, "Oh, I trust you." but we didn't really have much options, I guess, because we didn't have the Perisic that sort of time. But even so, we still had players who could play left back or left wing back. And we saw Ryan Sessegnon get game time, even though he wasn't that great, if I can honestly say that. The excitement around Djed Spence from a lot of teams in the Premier League was phenomenal. And for us to have got that player, everybody, to a man, they've picked up a real bargain there. They've got a player, they've got this. And now his career, not say his career's over, because that's far too much and going too far. But what I'm saying is a player like this could get frustrated. As we saw with Steven Bergwijn, they want to play football. If you're 22, 23 years of age, it's not like you're 33 looking for a payday. He's not an Aubameyang. He's not, he's not any of those sort of players who he's just looking to kind of get paid. He wants to play football. I don't understand it.
Do you know what? I don't think anyone understands that situation. And if you do, please, and if you remember the 80s, answers on a postcard to Paxton Road TV. And, let's see if our viewers in the comment sections or our viewers in general have an idea as well. Now, comparing last season, I know he was only in the Championship. I know he was in Nottingham Forest. But if we look at his stats last season, 43 matches in all competitions, 3,770 minutes, 3 goals and 4 assists. So if you think about that, I think he played about 37 Premiership, Championship games. So, and then obviously all the way to the final. And then you've got the cup games, the phenomenal game he had against Arsenal, where some of their players said that this guy absolutely blitzed us. So we've got a player who they say is probably one of the toughest leagues to get promoted from. And you get kicked left, right and centre every single game. He played 43 matches and over 3,500 minutes last season. 8 games into the season now, we've played 1 game. So my question to you, Sam, is we've heard it time and time again. He's not shy about it in press conferences many, many times. He is not a signing I wanted. He is a club signing. He has said that many, many times. He's reiterated himself many, many times. He is a club signing. Does that mean then, A, he didn't want to buy him? He didn't want him. B, Paratici's told him, we need him, he's a good player. And then C, the club have said, we're going to him at all costs, Daniel Levy. So has he just went, okay then, that's fine. You want him, not a problem. I'm going to get him. I'm not going to play him. So do you think now he's being stubborn because he's not his signing?
Yes and no. Yeah, to a degree, I do agree. I think with Conte, he's made that clear. He must have said, he must see something in the player, because if he really thought it was a waste of time, I think he would have probably said because he did mention after that it's a club signing, but it's a lot of potential. Spurs have been tracking him for a while, blah blah blah. So he understood the reason why Spurs went for him. So let's get that point across. The comparison I want to try and make is someone like Basuma, who again, he's not got much game time, although he's got more than Spence has. But you can understand that because Højbjerg, Bentancur are playing really well. We can't take that away. So it's tough to get into a 2-man midfield when the 2 midfielders are playing really well.
Sam, you can continue in a minute. But on what you've just said there, in terms of Basuma with Højbjerg and Bentancur, Conte has come out and said he's not my signing. What has he said? He's not getting used to the tactics.
Yeah. And I know he rates Basuma. I know he rates Basuma, because you cannot not rate Basuma. I guess in training he'll see all the things that he does, and a natural footballer, he probably wants to integrate him into this team, and maybe it might work out better for Basuma, if we're just touching on him, to be in a 3-man midfield. I get that. I can understand that. Until he gets into this 2-man anchor role, it's kind of difficult to say, because we've seen, players get lost in that middle, and particularly when we get overrun quite a lot, but we seem to have worked a way of making and getting results from it. Okay, going back to the Spence thing. we ain't got no competition at right wing back. Last season, we was all shouting, if we're right wing backs, come the end of next season or come in the beginning of this season that we're playing now, was Doherty and Emerson. We all said in our heads, I definitely did, that's it. There's no chance. We can't have them two. Yeah. Even though Matt Doherty was playing well towards the end of the season, we still didn't think we could rely on just having them two to take us to anywhere we want to go. We get the addition of Spence in, we get the addition of Perisic in. All of a sudden, we've got 4 players because Perisic can play both sides, as we've seen. So it looks a little bit better. But we've only seen one. We've only seen Emerson.
And it's like you said, Doherty got injured, or he's coming back from an injury. And we've discussed this many times. If you're good enough to be named on a subs bench, that then to me means you're going to get on at some point, maybe, maybe not. But you're fit enough to be on the bench, and you're fit enough to come on the pitch at some point. Spence is neither. He's constantly fit and he's ready. Leicester game, we saw it, where he played Perisic and Sessegnon right and left wing backs. So you're literally, like you said, you're playing a left wing back as a right wing back when you've already got a youngster on the bench ready to come on. But he just didn't bring him on or didn't even start with him. So he'd rather have somebody who's predominantly left-sided to come play on the right. And both of them didn't adapt too well to that position, to be fair, in that game. But still no Spence. Still no Spence. So is this Conte now trying to prove a point to Levy to say, if he's not my player, if he's not a player that I want, then I'm not going to play him. I don't care how high you rate him. I don't care what everyone says. Yeah, I'm not going to play him because consequences coming to this. Because I'm hearing a couple of things on the grapevine. A few ex-players, I think, have said it, and a few other players, professional players, have said things about Spence, which we'll talk into in a couple of minutes. But he's definitely not going to play against Arsenal. We can rest assure ourselves that. So, when do you think Spence now is going to get an opportunity?
I think it'll be the League Cup game against Nottingham Forest.
Okay,
that's it. And I don't see anything. Don't see anything in the Champions League because we're in a little bit of a situation. Not to say we're going to be going out of the Champions League anytime soon because we've only played 2 games, but 3 points. We do need to win the next game. It's a home game against Frankfurt, I do believe. Yep. So we do need to win that one. So will he take a chance in starting Spence? I doubt it. He should be on the bench. And maybe, if we're comfortable in that game, maybe players might get an opportunity. But I'm still thinking to myself, what if Emerson gets injured? Mm-hmm. What if Perisic, the knock that he's picked up against in the game that he's played versus Denmark. He might not feature against Arsenal. So what is he going to do then? Is he going to just stick with Sessegnon and Emerson? What if one of them has to come off? Then what do we do? Because Doherty's obviously played left wing back. We've seen that last season, so he could probably fit in there. What I want to see is Conte doesn't have to come out and explain anything about why he's not choosing players. So we have to make our own assumptions as to why they're not playing. As you said, the biggest thing is, for what we can see, is Conte's quite stubborn, and he says that this is not his player. Those 2 things as a combination says to me that he's not going to get much game time, unless, of course, he does something so dramatic that he has no chance or no option but to play this guy. And I think we should find that out. Why can't we find that out?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Just adding to minutes and stuff, he played 71 minutes for the under-21s yesterday against Italy, which they won 2-0. And the Tottenham boys done really well. Brewster done well. Skip done well. Spence done well. And I think there was a 4th player, I can't remember. But he played Sessegnon. So he played 71 minutes. He started the game 71 minutes. So, England have picked him. Maybe they haven't got any right backs, but they obviously see potential in him. So he's playing, even though he didn't play any time for Spurs. So it's a very, very interesting question. Right, let's have a look at a couple of comments on here and then we'll continue. Hi from Leicester, David Clark. Good evening, David. I've got COVID and Perisic is injured and Kane may have lost some teeth. Nah, I think we'll be all right with them too. But glad to see you're back and you're in Leicester. because after the Tottenham-Leicester game, we was a bit worried about you, but glad to see you're about.
He's still alive anyway. That's the
Still
main thing.
alive. I told you that the Leicester game was going to be mad as the 5-4 Wembley game. It was. Good evening to Good Bits Entertainment, I'm assuming. Hope Kane doesn't get injured. Rest Kane, please. I think Kane will be rested now for the Germany game. But Gareth Southgate's got a job to battle for now, so you never know. What's he saying here? Dyer would come good, I have no doubt. Sorry, Djed will come good, I have no doubt. Yep. Carl Simpson, good evening. Spence needs to be given a chance. I truly believe that is what we are missing.
You know what? People are saying these things in the comments, and again, I'm gonna go back on the Emerson that he's not good enough to play for Spurs. He is good enough to play for Spurs, but not in the capacity he is always going to be starting. I think he's a good squad player. He should be a Ben Davies for me. You know, he's reliable. He's not going to kick up too much of a fuss. So if he's not picked, he has good vibes on the bench. You know what I mean? And he's all right. He'll come on and he'll do a job. Some players, we know that they can moan, they can kick up a fuss. It causes an atmosphere around the training ground. It causes a problem for the manager. That's the manager's job to sort that out. But you want players, if you're a coach, and I've done it myself, you want players who are happy to play their position or play their role. When you've got a lot of players who want to play, that's where management comes in. That's why it's really about man management at the top level, not about players' ability. It's about man management, in my opinion, or person management, if you want to look at it that way. But this could go one of two ways. Either it's Conte's talking enough to the player to let him know, right, this is exactly why, and this is what I want from you, and we might not hear any of that. And so behind the scenes, Spence is actually, yeah, I'm good with that. Or he's like, okay, what do I have to do? And if he doesn't know what he has to do to get in a team, that's even more difficult for him.
I agree with you. Cole seems to think Conte's been stubborn towards Spence for me. Yeah, we agree with that. Sean Hurl is saying here, was the plan to sell Royal, but Doherty's slow recovery from injury, etc. meant that plan was derailed. Yes, we can understand that. But then he's bought Spence knowing Doherty got injured at the end of the season. So he's bought Spence in as a replacement or backup. So use him, use him.
And that, you made that great point there, because we bought Spence knowing that Doherty was already injured. If Conte wasn't happy that he didn't have enough right back options, I'm pretty sure he'd have kicked up more of a fuss than we've seen. Because Conte hasn't held back in saying, no, I want no drop off in the levels of performance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. David Clark here. Conte played Mora there when he could have played Spence. So to me, Conte is being a dick, stickling two fingers up to Levy. Interesting one. NS Sports TV is saying hi. Big up to you as well, NS. JC is saying, evening guys, Spence should have been loaned out to Forest this season. His current situation is no good for his development. We discussed that, didn't we, Sam? We did say that if you weren't going to play him, then you should have bought him and loaned him straight out like you did with Destiny Udogie. Just, exactly, because we know Daniel Levy looks to the future and how much he's going to get for the club. So if you weren't going to play him, and if Conte was going to say, you know what, you're signing, you do what you got to do with him, I ain't going to play him, we should have loaned him straight back out. Caswell Andrew is saying here, mentality. How do you instill mentality? How do you react to disappointment? Why are some saying Conte we trust? Competition is good. It's good for you to know who you're up against. This is the Conte way. We sort of agree what you're saying there, Andrew. Yes, mentality. How do you instill mentality? That's his job. That's his coaching people around him to instill the mentality. However, for me, is competition is good, but if the competition is playing shit, right, then you've got to give the competitor a chance. Simple as.
So, Sid, what are we asking from our right wing back? We're asking mainly in the way that we play. We're asking for our wing backs to be outlets in an attacking sense, because you got the ball where you got 3-4-3 system. The space is going to be out wide usually, because teams are going to put three in the middle if they play different. So we use our wing backs, and I've been at the stadium all this season, watched the home games apart from obviously Champions League games, and I've seen how much space there is for players like Emerson, for players like Sessegnon Perisic when he plays as well. It's so much space, and we want someone to attack that space. What I saw last season with Spence is he was really good at attacking space. He's got a turn of pace. He can beat a man. He looked like he could get a ball in the box as well. He looked like he could even get on the end of finishing one or two, which we saw with the stats with the goals and stuff. You also don't necessarily need him to be the best defender, because we've seen again, he's put Son at wing back. I'm not necessarily this season, but we've seen Lucas at wing, we've seen Kulusevski at wing back. So I know that the defensive side doesn't have to be top of Conte's thought process, but certainly to be an outlet and to be confident in beating your player 1v1. I think Spence is definitely better than Emerson from what I know, but I might be wrong. We all might be wrong.
We all might be wrong. And as obviously we talk about it, we go to the games, we talk about it. What we're not seeing and what we don't get to see is what happens in training on a daily basis. When they're at Hotspur Lodge, what's happening with him? What's his mentality like? How's he getting on with the players? Is he listening to the instructions? Is he following instructions? We don't know. We don't know. So maybe there is more to it than it meets the eye. Maybe there is something Conte is seeing in him. I know for a fact that he was talking about that tweet that he put out to Warnock, saying that he was a bit cocky with the way he done it, respect, blah, blah, blah. Maybe being youngster, maybe he might be a bit naive. Maybe he's not listening. Maybe he's gotten a bit too big for his boots. We don't know, and we will never, ever know, because Conte. Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, sorry to interrupt, but what? And this is not Conte saying. This is just me thinking. Why would it be that Conte would have a problem with a player that's got? Sorry, not necessarily an attitude problem, because it just sounds like a bit of confidence, overconfidence, maybe arrogance. You could possibly say that, but I'd rather see a professional footballer with confidence and arrogance rather than someone who's going to be, within themselves, in their shell. We saw that from Sessegnon. It took a lot of him start getting into his personality, put it that way. His personality is starting to come out, and he's looking like a player now that has got a bit more vocalism about him. He looks like someone who's more involved. It's quite easy to be a youngster and be kept on the outskirts if you haven't got that capacity to be confident. He's 22 years old. I want him to be confident. I want him to have that little bit of stick two fingers up to Neil Warnock, because that shows he's got an attitude. But it looks like now we might slowly, that might be ebbing away from him, because confidence is a massive thing in any sport. And when you're not playing, you can't be as confident as you are if you are playing.
I agree with you 100%. 100%. And you know what? It's a tough one, because everybody wants to see this young lad. Everybody wants to see him. I mean, I didn't watch him yesterday for the under-21. So if anyone did, in the comment section, if you just post it in there how he played. But we've got to embed these players at some point. When is he going to actually play him? If he's going to play him, like you said, because we know Royal's a bit suspect at times. He doesn't have the best of games. We know we can make 5 substitutions now. So as an alternative, if you've got him on the bench, I mean, he's not made the bench for a few games, but if you've got him on the bench, if he's got that pace, that little bit of electricity, speed in him, then bring him on, because people know about him. People have heard about him. So he's one of these youngsters that you've got to look forward to, but we're never going to know.
You know what, Sid? I think, if I'm honest with you, I think we would have a slight problem, if we see Yaphet Tanganga or Davinson Sanchez play right wing back ahead of him. If one of them two plays ahead of Spence, because let's say Emerson needs to get rest, because Emerson's not going to play 12 games in October. No. He already had to miss out the other day, but he put Perisic there. But Perisic might have picked up a knock. He's 33. He ain't going to play 12 games in a row. Sessegnon, excuse me, he's a left-sided player. I can't see him playing right-sided too often, although he has played there again. He's done that kind of swapping them around.
Yeah.
If we saw Yaphet Tanganga or Davinson Sanchez play there when them two are not playing, I really think we've got a problem.
Yeah, because Tanganga did come on against Marseille, didn't he? So, yeah. JC saying here the same goes for Brian Hill. Why isn't he being loaned to a Brighton or a Bournemouth, etc.? We did say that again. Another one that's just going to be on the bench but not going to get used. So then why use him? And then David Clark is saying, look, I don't believe in coincidences. So I'm saying Conte is sticking the middle finger up at Levy.
But why? Conte, this is what I'm saying, Dave. Conte has said publicly what he wants. Conte's come out publicly last season. He's not afraid. When asked questions, he was asked a direct question about players. He went on to give us the information about Bissouma not being tactically ready. He's not afraid to say those sort of things. So if he was asked directly, why are you not playing Djed Spence? I would expect him to come out and say, this is the reasons why. Mm. I don't necessarily think he's a two fingers up to Levy, but he is stubborn. So he is going to make his point known. But like I said, if we're looking for our right wing backs to be an attacking threat, who else is more attacking in our opinion? Well, it definitely might be. I think he's the most attacking wing back we've got. And I've not even seen him play this season. Really.
Exactly. So 14, 15, 16 people watching, please just smash that like button. I'm a bit late as well, but please smash followers and just ring that bell. Thank you very much. Right, I'm going to wrap up in a minute. So, 2 questions now for you. First one is Spence now, 22 years old. He's just played for England. He's now going to report back next week to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium at the Lodge. His mindset now. Where is his mindset? Is it, I've got to get used to sitting on the bench, not getting in the squad, buy my time until I get into the squad or into the first team and take my chance by the scruff of the neck and show Conte what he's missing? Or is he now, being a youngster, his confidence going to get that low that he's just going to sort of fall out of love with football because he's not getting his chance? And could that happen? Could that happen? Because leading on to my next question, which is, will he leave on loan in January? Or I've heard, I don't know how true, but I've also heard could be sold in January.
It would make no sense. That it would make no sense for either of them now, because of the fact that in January you're more likely to need players because of the fact that they've gone half a season. The World Cup's already gone. We don't know what the state of play is going to be like with players being injured, all the rest of it, players tired, etc., etc. So you're probably likely to need more of your squad then. So that would make no sense. To sell him would even be more nonsensical because you've only just bought him. So I can't understand why that would happen. What I would say is, though, because we are at this moment in time winning games, we haven't lost in the league. We've only lost that game in the Champions League. So effectively, he's trying to get into a winning team. Ryan Sessegnon last season had to have patience. He's one of his best mates. He's played with him since he was 12. He knows him well. He may have had a word in his ear to say, listen, Djed, you know what I mean? I have to stick this one out. You know, you might not get too much game time this season, but listen, I had to do it. Look what's happened now. I'm back in the fold. I'm almost first choice depending, but I'm certainly within Conte's thinking. Conte, trust me. Maybe Djed Spence has to get that trust of Conte. I don't know how he's going to get it, whether it's just training well, whether it's just, you know, being that player that does exactly what the manager wants. But ultimately, you can only see how a player is going to be when you play him. Training is great. You know, all the rest of it is great in the tactical route. But when we actually see him play, that's when we know. And Conte never said anything about him tactically. He never said that he had a problem. He only mentioned Bissouma tactically. So, again, what's the problem then? If he's tactically all right, he's physically fit, we know he can attack, what's the problem?
Agree with you. Where's he gone? Where are we? Okay, so David Clark is saying here, Conte did come out and say he was a club signing and one for the future. His exact words. Yes, and he said that time and time again, hasn't he? What about this statement here from Caswell Andrew? We do not want to peak too early. Teams will work us out. Christian Eriksen, he used him when no team can work the team out. Spence will play from February when other teams have no answer?
Potentially, it seems like a bit more of a. If that's the plan that he's got, that sounds like a really deep sort of plan, because who knows where we're going to be in February? Do you know what I mean? We could be out of plenty of competitions by February. Who knows? So this is what I'm saying. If he's got that plan to bring someone in, then we might be out of the bloody Champions League by then. We might not be in the League Cup. The FA Cup, it starts in January. Let's say we get a third round knockout. Who knows what's going to happen? So yeah, I understand what Caswell's saying. But if we wait till February to see what this player can do without knowing what he does now, even in the England game, I had different reports that he played all right for the 21s, but he looked like he was a bit rusty. What's going to be to expected, isn't it?
Of course. Like you said, training and then playing 90 minutes of football is completely different, isn't it? Training is slow paced, whereas the actual game then is a lot more physical, a lot more fast paced. David Clark is saying Levy won't sell Spence no matter what Conte may say. I agree with you on that one. Silmarian Prince is saying potential he has. Just give him a chance. That's what we're saying. Just give him a chance. JC, this situation will either make or break Djed Spence, which leads me on to my next question to you is, does he stick or does he twist?
Who's this, Djed or the club?
Both. Let's look at it from the club point of view first, and then let's look at it from Djed Spence's point of view.
Okay, I think the club would stick, because the reason I say that, we look like we're getting the average age down for those right wing backs, left wing backs to a lower age. We've seen Destiny Djed in Italy, looks like a real talent. 19, 20 years of age. We've obviously got Ryan Sessegnon in our ranks now, 22 years of age. We've also got, as we've seen, Djed Spence, 22 years of age. So those three players alone, their futures could be very, very bright with Spurs. We've still got Perisic, who's 33, and we've got Emerson. And I'm doing Emerson a disservice. He's what, 22, 23? He's not the oldest in the world. Do you know what I mean? So I think we've got four wing backs, if you take out Perisic, who are less than 23 or less than 24. That's a good future for Spurs to have. You know, that's a really good future. So I think the club are obviously looking at the future, and they're making sure that they try and get the best talent that's available for the right price. And he was the best talent available for that price, in my opinion.
So, in terms of Spence, what does he do? Does he just sit there, listen to the wise words of Conte? Like you said, Mason will probably tell him Harry Kane's, Perisic's, Hugo Lloris's, Eric Dyer's. Does he just listen to them boys? And obviously they'll be telling him, listen, mate, you're at a club, you're at a big club, you've got one of the top managers in the world. Just bide your situation. You will get your opportunity, and when it comes, you just take it by the neck and you do everything possible not to get out of that team. Or will he just sit there and just think, it's not happening? They don't like me.
What I'm going to say now, I don't necessarily believe the answer I'm going to say now, but I'm going to say it anyway. He could be happy with the situation as a player that's coming. He could be happy that he's at a bigger club. He's in London. He's now, you know, with one of the best managers is in world football, the best stadium in world football, probably the best training facilities. He's got everything. And we've seen a lot of players come in on a lot of money and have probably done the same thing. Wow, this is nice here. It's quite comfortable. I don't mind. I don't have to play. It's all right. Don't worry, boss. I'm good. I'll sit on the bench. But I don't think for a 22, 23-year-old who's got ambitions of going in far in the game, from what he said in his interview, he's going to have that attitude. But we don't know. I think he's going to stick. I think he's going to see out this season. I hope he'll get some games, and I hope he'll get some important minutes as well. But I think we'll see cameo appearances. I don't think he's going to make it to be our number one starter this season, unless circumstances dictate. But I'm hoping that when we see Destiny come back and we've got, you know, a few players that might get moved on, I expect him to be there or thereabouts come next season. If Conte's still here, we don't know. We don't even know what's going to happen with that, do we?
Well, this is it. Now, we're just going to wrap up in a minute. But for me, he's just got to, like you said, he's a young lad. He's got a lot of talent. He's just got to buy it out, because October, we've got 9 games in October. They're going to come thick and fast, right? You've got Champions League, EPL, Carabao Cup, FA Cup. You're going to get games coming out of your head, right? Conte is not going to stick with them same players. Like you said, there's going to be injuries. Players are going to get niggles, whatever. He's going to rotate players. So in that period, if he doesn't get any opportunity, then the alarm bells for me will definitely start ringing, because if you've got a period of 9 games in a month or less than a month, and you're telling me that you're going to rest players, you're going to rotate players, and some are going to get injured, and then you're not going to give him an opportunity, then there's something. Then I'm going to say, do you know what? Conte is not going to play him because he's a club buy and not his buy. However, if it changes, then it changes. So that's my view on that one. He's just going to have to sit it out. He can't do anything till January anyway, because the window is shut now till January. Maybe in that time, like I've just said, nothing happens, then a loan move could be a potential in January. Nottingham Forest could add 970th player to their squad. Who knows?
I think from looking at our squad, looking at the team, looking at the formation, the positions, alongside the midfielders, the wing backs are probably the most, intense, energetic position in our formation. We've seen that the two midfielders, because they're two, have to be really, really energetic. Conte said that they have to have an engine, they've got to have pace, they've got to have a turn of pace, they've got to have lots and lots of ability to be able to, defend and attack. Same for the wing backs. They've got to get up the pitch, they've got to beat people 1v1, they've got to get back, defend 1v1, they've got to tuck in, they've got to do all this. They might sometimes have to fill in. It's a very taxing position. We look like Matt Doherty's coming back, so I can understand potentially Matt Doherty and Emerson getting rotated. But if one of them were to be injured, and we weren't, because remember, Doherty's been injured, and we still only saw 1 minute of bloody Spence in this situation. If one of them was to get injured, and we were then to see, let's say it was Emerson that got injured, we see Matt Doherty play, and then one game where he's not playing, we then see Sessegnon or Perisic come over the other side and take his position, then I think we have got a problem. I really do.
Yeah, you know what? It's one of them situations now where we're just gonna have to sit and wait, because fans have already waited 8 games, nothing's happened. Fans are getting frustrated, but there's nothing we can do. So, on that note, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. It has been 48 minutes. We weren't supposed to be doing that much, but if you enjoyed it, smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and follow us, obviously, at Sid_Spurs, at Sam_Spurs for life, at Paxton Road TV. We've got Jody, we've got Sean, we've got Mike, we've got Darius, we've got Deji, we've got everyone about. Just give us all a follow. We'll entertain you, as Robbie Williams says, because we love to entertain you. Yeah, so whether you're a Spence fan, whether you want him to see more minutes, whether you want to see him actually get on the pitch, we're asking the questions. Conte's telling us one thing. Let's see what happens in the foreseeable future. And is Spence going to get his opportunity? Sam, what's happening?
Yes.
Final thoughts, and what have we got lined up for our viewers?
Most important bits then, definitely, because we've got some big games coming up, as you know. So before the start of the Premier League again, look out for Talking Points on Monday, 8 o'clock. We are going to do a show called Kane, Conte and Contracts. Obviously, we're going to discuss the contract situation with Conte. It's a bit of a story, because I think there's nothing to print at the moment, so the newspapers are beginning to put things out there. But again, there's no smoke without fire, as I say. So we're going to discuss contract situations on Talking Points on Monday, and then we go into next weekend. Before that, we're going to do our preview show probably Thursday, and there might be some visitors, guests from them lot down the road from our sister channel, the Armory TV, and we'll have some fun with that. But yeah, look forward to that. And then yes, the game itself. So next week is going to be a busy week, shall we say?
Yeah. And JC, an early score prediction for the Arsenal game. You'll have to tune in next week, because if you've watched our shows before, the preview shows, we give our score predictions, and we've got a little mini table with the presenters.
Can't give away too much, JC.
Can't give away too much yet. But make sure you tune in next week, JC, and we will give you our predictions for the Arsenal game. In the meantime, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure having you guys tonight. I know it's a bit late, but we managed to get a show on, and it's like they say, there's nothing, you can't finish your week unless you've got a Paxton Road TV show, and you've got our second one this week into the weekend. So hopefully we will see you soon. And if you haven't already smashed the like button, smash the like button. Thank you very much for joining us. We shall see you next week.